3, 2, 1. Booyah, we're live. What's up, Ray? How you doing, man?
What's up, Gill buddy? How are you?
I'm doing good. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this, by the way.
Are you really? Have you ever done a podcast before?
I've never done a podcast. I've done my own voice memos talking to myself, but that's about it.
Okay. What do you do that for?
Honestly, sometimes I do it just to get my thoughts out. So, because I just like to talk. And other times, just because, I don't know, I want to hear myself. Actually, you know what? I do it as a self-healing thing, to be honest. Because I sometimes have my thoughts out. I get my thoughts out. I don't listen to it. I just delete it. And that's it.
Why do you delete them? Why don't you listen back to them?
Just because I feel like that's a sense of me getting out those feelings, those thoughts. And, in that moment, that's what I was feeling. And it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
Just like when certain people, they write letters to, different
Correct.
somebody,
Yeah.
and they don't want to send it to them, so they
Yeah.
burn it or rip it up,
like
or
a love letter to their ex or whatever, and they
Yeah.
just burn it.
Yeah.
It honestly, it works. It definitely works. I feel like there's a sense of relief, kind of like something lifted off your shoulders, right? And once you press that delete button, it's gone. You don't have to hear it or see it or think about it, to be
Gotcha.
honest.
Yeah. That's a weird concept, don't you think?
Yes and no, because I do the same thing with recording myself.
Okay.
So
Like video recording
video
or
recording,
audio?
like a video recording. So what is it called? It's not called vlogging. What is it called? Because like you're journaling or whatever the case may be, but through video. And I would do the same thing. Oftentimes, I used to drive out to San Fernando for work, and I would just press record while it's sitting on the dashboard, and I would just talk, and then I would delete it afterwards. It's just my sense of, I guess,
Just
journaling.
Just like letting something out.
Just letting things go. Because sometimes my thoughts, they're very, how can I say this? They're very impulsive and very impulsive thoughts and feelings, like in the moment. Let's say something makes me mad or whatnot, and I want to act on it, right? So when I do those things, when I record myself either on camera or just like as a voice memo, it's like I'm allowing for that impulsive thought or feeling to get out and, act on it in that sense. And then I delete it and it's gone. And I don't have that impulsive thought anymore or feeling.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I do the same thing, but I kind of go back and listen to it. Maybe it's a different thing because you're doing it as of like a self-healing.
Right.
On the other hand, I do it, but I do it on like a creative sense. If like I have a good idea, or if there's like a good joke, or if there's like a situation that I've lived through,
right,
and there's like like a joke in there or like a nice story, I would read it back or I would play it back. I have like tons of audio stuff, like voice memos that I think, if I'm driving or if I'm on the freeway or if I waiting in line at like Starbucks or something, I think that's funny.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I think it just really depends on what the purpose is for, right? And obviously, like your purpose is a creative space, and for me, it's like a healing space. So, I think for anyone, it's just whatever works for them.
Where did you first get that concept? Did you learn it from somebody, or was it just something that you thought of
I
to
just
do?
did. I'm not gonna lie. Like I one thing is I don't like listening to myself, but I do like looking at myself. You know what I mean? I know that
Gotcha.
sounds very vain and conceited and so forth, right? But even in the mirror or whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that stemmed from, right? With video recording. So like, I would be just recording myself, and even just kind of seeing it on like YouTube. You see like the little cams in the cars or like through reality shows. Like I always, like I thought I was funny, I think I'm cool or whatever to be on that, right? So I would just create it myself, create that space for myself in my car. But then it really did took a turn when I started to go to therapy, and I kind of used that same concept but applied with me being able to get my thoughts out and my feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was really like venting to myself. I'm in the car by myself for a long period of time, like an hour and a half. and literally there's nobody else but me, right? So me seeing myself, it feels like I'm talking to someone. I know that sounds kind of crazy or whatnot, maybe to some people, but that's really what it came down to. It's like, you know, I felt like I had someone to talk to, which was myself. And being able to see myself and being able to, in a way, interact with myself as well. That's what it kind of came down to, you know?
What is this? What are you pulling up?
I'm just kind of looking, and it looks like there's like a whole kind of,
Like concept behind it.
yeah. So pretty much like I can't even say it. Videoing yourself
Yeah.
as a form of self therapy. Just kind of see like intro to self therapy
Living well
videos.
with schizophrenia.
That what? Whatever.
That's what it says. Living well with schizophrenia.
Oh yeah. So I guess maybe it's a
It's a
thing.
method. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm.
And I think even if, let's say, there wasn't this concept, right? There wasn't this research behind it or whatnot. I feel like whatever works for you and whatever, you know, as long as your intent, or I guess your purpose, is to like, what are you trying to get out of it, right? Like what you asked me, you were
Yeah.
like, why did you do that, right? And I think that's what it really just comes down to.
See right here it says 5 reasons or 5 practical reasons why you should film yourself. One, to boost learning,
Mm-hmm.
um, to become more expressive.
I like that, George Carlin.
Yeah. So I guess this is where what you were saying go about
Yeah.
like kind of seeing yourself
Mm-hmm.
and remembering things and
Yeah.
expressing yourself. So the creative side of it, emotional. So like the emotional sense, I guess that could be both.
Emotional catharsis.
Catharsis.
What did Eminem say? I'd be a savage beast if I ain't had this outlet to salvage
Salvage me.
me.
Eminem.
Emotional catharsis. 4, to become more
Unreactive.
unreactive.
There you go.
See?
Yeah, so I think you and I were talking about this too, about reacting to things and responding to things.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on the defense, you're reacting. But
Yeah.
when you kind of sit back and look at the situation and
Yeah.
kind of assess the situation, you're responding it.
Yeah.
You're responding to that situation rather than
Yeah.
reacting. 5, practice your imagination and concentration. What's the other ones?
So that's the end.
That's
so it's
it?
just
Yeah.
5.
Those
Yeah.
5. But those are good concepts. Practice your imagination.
really good
Become more
concepts.
unreactive.
See, I did
Yeah.
this without even looking at a Google search. It just came up to me.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is, yeah.
Probably a few, I guess. Catharsis. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you do that a lot.
I do that
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah. I don't know. It's just what works for me. I love to write. I mean, I love writing.
Okay.
I feel like that's something that's always been my passion. In middle school, high school, like English was my favorite subject, right? And I just felt like it was an escape to be able to get my thoughts out and what I'm feeling and what my opinion is and so forth, in these essays and whatnot. However, when it comes down to me writing like journaling and whatnot, I just can't do it, and I can't do it. I think it's because I just have this. I feel like when it comes to writing, I try to filter myself because I'm like, okay, is this grammatically correct? Is
Gotcha.
this this? Is this that? So it doesn't work for me because I end up not either completing that journal entry or whatnot, or I just do it once and I don't go back to it.
Do you like reading?
I
Do you
like
read
to
a lot?
Yeah, I don't read as much as I would like to, but here and there I've picked up some books and whatnot.
Gotcha. So there's this book by Anne Lamott
Mm-hmm.
called Bird by Bird,
Mm,
and that book is basically on writing.
really?
Yeah, so she has this concept in there, bird by bird, pretty much, and she always says that, like, she has this concept in there that your first drafts are always their shit.
Yeah.
Like, so sometimes, and I think it's this, is it Anne Lamott or Elizabeth Gilbert? So there's 2 books actually that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, Bird by Bird, Anne Lamott. Some instructions on writing and life. So there's this one, and then also Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Both great books
Yeah.
for writers, like for people that are writing,
Mm-hmm.
or there's certain concepts for people that write, but just on how to write better. Yeah, creative living and beyond fear. Um, but what I was going with that is that and this concept is actually in Big Magic, where you have your creative brain and you have your executive brain, I think. But you have two sides of your brain. So you
Right.
have your creative side, and then you have your constructive side. So when you're first writing out your first draft, it has to be your creative side because you're just letting everything out
Yeah.
on paper. But if you allow your editor brain, yeah, so it's editor and creative brain. If you let your editor brain take control while your first draft, it's not going to be that good.
Yeah.
Because of the concept of a draft is just to get your ideas in there, and then you can go out and adjust things, finesse, take out words, leave words in there, like actually to get what the main picture is before. So I mean, it's kind of hard, like when you're writing, because you want to just have everything perfect at the beginning, right? And it's sometimes it just doesn't happen. Like even like joke writing, comedy writing, it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, like I even go back, like I wouldn't even like start writing stuff because I've already get it fixed in my head. Like, okay, this isn't good. You have to go back and fix that.
Right.
But I mean, I haven't written in a long time. I kind of want to
But I think
go
that's
back and
like
do it.
the perfectionist in you both. I think.
I think that's where it definitely stems from, and it's crazy because it's like, I mean, I'm being a perfectionist with my thoughts and so forth, and I'm like, I don't want to sound like this, but it's like, who am I sounding this to if this paper's for me? But I feel like it's all a mind thing, and
So most of your writing is for yourself, not necessarily
Yeah.
writing an essay. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's
I
for
see.
myself. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But and the concept of journaling and whatnot,
Yeah.
that's why it's not my best. It's not the best practice for me personally. It's not something that I enjoy doing.
hmm
But I do enjoy creative writing, right? Like just writing essays. I don't know,
Okay.
for like
Have you
school
written
and
anything
whatnot.
lately?
So actually, I'm working on writing a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the
So,
basis of the book about?
My life.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
My life and my trauma and working through it and the healing processes and what I've done to be able to get to where I'm at. Whenever I finish the book, right, whether it be in the next few months or in the next year or whatever the case may be, and really just outlining all the steps that I take and I continue to take.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
Are you using any guides, anything to help guide you in the process of writing?
I'm not. I'm just kind of really trying to um, get out all my thoughts. You know what I mean? Because it is a lot to do with my past and
Okay.
my life and my upbringing. So I think with that in itself, I have to just make sure that I'm able to get it all out before I forget. Hopefully, I don't forget anything, right?
Gotcha.
And even trying to work through it because with trauma comes blockages, right? Like you tend to forget to, or you tend to not remember certain things because there's that trauma block. So I feel like right now it's just very much so me trying to get through that trauma block so I can unpack those things and really dive into where all this stemmed from, you know? And I think that it's really important for people to realize that a lot of the reasons that they are the way that they are in this point in time is because of something that happened that can be so small, so minor, yet it has such a big impact. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, and I think that's why people continue to be in their ways of being, right? Because they're not willing, or I guess not. I don't want to use the word willing. They don't have the knowledge or the awareness, right, of honing in on those small things that make a huge difference. For example, I don't know. Let's say for me, this kid took this pencil away from me, or and he pushed me or whatever, and so forth, and I felt scared, right? That little small thing could have had a big impact on my life where I'm just like afraid of, I don't know, afraid of taking someone's pencil because I think they're gonna push me now, right? So all those things have an effect, and I think that when we really get to the root of these things, we start to dissect it, and we're able to be like, huh, okay, that's why. It makes sense now. Now what am I gonna do about it? You know? And what am I gonna do moving forward, and how am I gonna maintain it so that way it doesn't revert back to that? Because it's all just a process, it's all a cycle and things like that. And it's even harder when it comes down to these traumas that are kind of passed down generationally, right?
Right.
Because those are things that weren't left, were not basically you're doing, right? But nonetheless,
It still has an impact on you.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot to work through because you're not just working through your own shit. You're working through let's say, your parents' shit, and then you're working through their parents' shit, and you're working through there, and so on and so on and so on. It keeps going back and back,
Yeah.
and all these things. It just makes it a little bit harder. But nonetheless, I think it just falls into how willing is someone to be able to unpack all those things.
Do you think that because it's like let's talk about the generational
Yes.
trauma. Do you think that it's easier to work through those traumas because they're not yours? Or are they both equally the same to work through them?
You know what? I think it's way harder to work through generational trauma.
Really?
I do. And let me tell you the reason why. So, right now too, I'm in a space where, I'm working on myself, and I'm doing everything that I can to get to the space that I need to be in so I can be mentally healthy, physically healthy, and so
Yeah.
forth. Um, but in those things, it's like I'm working through this generational trauma that I had nothing to do with. So with me having nothing to do with, I don't really have, um, like, I had to do more work, right? And I'll give you an example. So with my parents, right? I come from a typical Mexican, family. They immigrated to the U.S. and so forth and whatnot, and we have this machismo culture, and then we also have this.
I just
know,
learned what machismo culture was
Did
just
you?
a few weeks ago. Yeah.
That's interesting. And
Yeah,
what did you take from that?
I've been thinking about it a lot. What I took from it
Yeah.
was I mean it's all I think machismo culture has always been there, but it
Right.
hasn't really it didn't really affect me
Mhm.
that much growing up. I knew it was there, but
Yeah.
it didn't really affect me at that all. I kind of just, at least for me, I kind of just disregarded it, and
Mhm.
from a very young age, I don't like. There's different things in the culture which
Yeah.
I didn't like, and I
Yeah.
didn't tolerate it. Like, oh, the man will go with the man, and the
Yeah.
man has to do this. Like, I grew up in a very religious, fundamental Christian based family.
Yeah.
So that the whole masculinity thing, and I wasn't even allowed to wear red shorts because my family thought it was homosexual.
Mm.
I mean, red shorts, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The
Yeah.
The devil's color.
Yeah, but no, I think it's just because of the color, but just just stuff like that. Like, I
Yeah.
just disregard. I already knew it was ridiculous.
Mhm.
Like, I knew that like, okay, the man had to take care of the family, and the man had to do all this stuff. I was like,
Right.
what about what about the women?
Yeah.
But anyways, I kind of just disregarded all that.
Yeah.
Like, from a very young age, I didn't really take it in
Yeah.
because I really didn't give a shit. Like, I didn't care. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
care about that culture.
Yeah.
I've always, and she knows this, that I was never really into traditions. Like,
Yeah.
traditions, if it was religious or non-religious or it was
Yeah.
secular
Yeah.
traditions, I never really, held on to any of those
Yeah.
type of beliefs. So, like, when I found out what,
Machismo.
when I found out what machismo was, I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of, I don't, I don't, it's there, and I'll acknowledge that the
Yeah.
culture is there, but do I follow it? I don't think
Yeah.
so. I'll pick and choose what I agree with and what I don't agree with
Yeah.
that. So I mean, that's what I learned what it is, and I'll acknowledge that it's there. But do I completely 100% follow that?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Right. Yeah.
But that's with a lot of things in traditional culture and traditional Mexican American culture and traditional American culture and politics and all that stuff. Like I just pick and choose. Like it's not set in stone. I mean, at least for me, like like each culture, each independent form of society. I don't know. Like I pick and choose what I would follow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, but to answer your question, what I got of it was it's just another piece of culture. Like it wasn't life changing for me. Like now I knew what it is.
Yeah.
Now I understand what people talk about.
Yeah.
But as far as others saying that it's machismo culture is now being fought against or something, or they're well, I mean, what's the term called when you're emasculating or you're trying to take the masculinity away from society? I just I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got it. I'm moving back to my other point, but I almost wanted to challenge you a little bit. In regards to the machismo culture, and kind of how you like it was something that was prevalent in your home, right? Like you've seen it and so forth. You acknowledged it, but it's and you mentioned you didn't give a shit about you didn't give a shit about it, which is which is great because you're not emulating that now, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like with the machismo culture, it's because it didn't directly affect you, right?
Right.
Because you're
exactly
because you're a
straight,
man.
you're a straight cis man and
Right.
so forth, right? And like someone like myself, that I am gay and so forth, that machismo culture is really what, where that trauma stems from as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to be able to look at those things and just like disregard it, at least from my point, right? Because, or for many people as well, because that culture in itself has had a direct impact on our lives, right? And how we move and how we act and how we think. And again, it just goes into that whole concept of generational trauma.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah.
I get you. I get your point
Yeah.
where like for instance, like certain things will penetrate somebody else because and not me because I don't associate myself with the same type of living situation.
Yeah.
And then a lot
Right.
of times, like the machismo within like the Mexican culture, it's geared towards, right, like machismo, the macho, the man. And I mean, I'm lucky enough to live in a home where my dad is the only male and three other women. So I didn't go through the machismo of, hey, you can't go out, but your brother can. But
Yeah.
I know people that's where there's a male and a female within the home. That's a lot of the dynamic of, oh no, he can go out until 12 o'clock, but you need to be home by 9 o'clock because you're a girl and you can get pregnant. See, and these are all things that within our culture have been passed down, and whether, the parents or whoever's doing it, and a lot of older moms too fall prey to the machismo, like idealization, even if they don't want to, kind of like without wanting to. So it's pretty much what Raymond's saying, Gil, is like it didn't happen to you because you were
Straight cis
Straight
male.
male.
straight cis.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I can't like I can't really express my thoughts on it because I've never lived.
Yeah.
I never lived it.
It's and
Yeah.
it just comes down to the.
I bet
experiences.
if I was if I lived the same if I wasn't straight,
Yeah.
it'd be different.
Yeah.
But
Right.
even like did your parent or someone in your kind of family ever say like, oh, don't play with that, it's for girls?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Or
Definitely.
Yeah.
or
100%.
oh, don't wear that because it's girly.
Yeah,
So
of course. Yeah, the
that's
red. That's
machismo.
where the red shorts came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah,
I
the
wasn't
shorts,
allowed to
I-
play with doll. I wasn't allowed. I was barely able to play with wrestlers
Yeah.
because I couldn't even purchase or they wouldn't even buy me the women wrestlers because they thought that they were similar to Barbies.
So there's machismo.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
been embedded. It's just you probably didn't know how to identify it.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I didn't really care because I still played with him.
Yeah.
Like even my family, they're like, oh, he's gonna be gay because he's playing with you know, the little toys that are all buff and everything.
Yeah.
They're like, look at him, he's playing.
crazy.
He's basically playing with half naked muscle men.
Muscle man. Yeah, it's insane. You know, it's insane where this culture is kind of rooted in and what it does and how it really affects you know, us growing up, right? But nonetheless, like going back into the topic of generational trauma and it being kind of something harder to combat. And I firmly believe that because like I can do all the work for myself, right? Like, you know, all the trauma that I've been through, whatever the case may be, and so forth. Like, I can do it all. Like, I can work through it, heal through it, you know, come up with these practices, coping mechanisms, and so forth. But that doesn't necessarily mean that now my family is going to do the same thing, right? And that's what it's going to be. It's like, I'm doing all this work. My family's not on the same wavelength as me. So now it's going to be difficult for me to work through these traumas that were embedded into me by my family, but I can't because they don't have this, they're not on the same wavelength as I am in regards to recognizing, addressing, and working through these things, right?
So how do you do that? Like, what's the steps to do that?
It's really hard. It's something that I'm still working on myself, and I'm still trying to figure out and really navigate on how to go about it because a lot of what it does to me is it creates even more frustration, more trauma, more things, right?
Mhm.
So I have to stop myself and realize, and this took a lot for me, you know, and it took a lot for me to recognize and to also just be able to give that grace, right? I need to be able to give that grace to my family, to my parents.
And grace, by what do you mean?
Grace
what do you
and
mean grace?
being able to understand that they
Gotcha.
don't necessarily understand me. You know what I mean? And as much as it is my job to
But do
help
you have to?
there's a level of understanding that needs to come from I guess parties that are
Yeah.
trying to work through this healing, right? Especially if like your family is um I guess if you want that for your family, right? And I do. I want my family to. I don't want them to be all healed, right? I don't want to heal them all. I'm not
Yeah.
their savior or whatnot. And that's not what I'm trying to get at with it. But I definitely see how the processes have helped me and how I've been able to get to this point. And I just want that for my family, you know. And I want that for them because I feel my own pain, right? I know the pain that I've gone through and so forth. So I can only imagine and I can only, you know, perceive how what they go through with not knowing these things. You know what I mean? So imagine them knowing these things and how they're able to apply it. So when it comes down to it, like I have to understand that it just comes with a lot of, you know, understanding of the fact that they didn't have the same resources, right?
Absolutely.
The resources are there now, but nonetheless, because they didn't have the resources before, how do you teach them how to obtain those resources, right?
Question. So do you think that if the resources were there during their time
Mhm.
of, you know, growing,
Yes.
do you think that they will
It
that
would have been
it
different.
would have been different? Do you think that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And you know what? It really comes down to even now, even the age that we're in, mental health is something that's so big. It's something that before no one even mentioned or talked about or
Right.
whatever. Like nobody gave a shit about how you felt or like, you know, that you needed a day for self-care or
Yeah.
you know,
A lot of companies are doing that
Yeah, a
actually. Yeah,
mental-
that's
a mental health day, you
Yeah.
know, because it's too much workload. Like, you know, and
Yeah.
I really feel like these past few years, um, it's been brought to light in a different sense where it's not stigmatized. It's normal. You know, it's
Gotcha.
normal to go through these things. So when you grow up knowing these things, you're able to address these things, right? And it kind of I don't want to go down this route, but I kind of see it in a way
Do
as
it.
like representation, right?
Go
Like
down it. Go down the rabbit hole.
I kind of see it in the light of representation. Like, you know, for me being a gay Latino and so forth, if I see, you know, a gay Latino in a movie or whatnot, like I feel represented, right? And I feel like that goes the same way with things or issues like mental health. Like if you see that being represented in the media, if you see that being talked about, it makes it okay. So I feel like now more than ever, I'm more secure in myself and I'm able to really be happy with myself and love myself. You know, not because I see these people or whatnot, but it makes it a little bit easier. You know, in a society that wasn't built for you, it makes it a little bit easier when you see that on TV, or you see these things being in ads or whatnot and so forth, right? So it really comes down to that, and that's why I think that if they were to have those resources, then you know, things would be a little bit different. But that's not the case. So now it's just really working to being able to guide them, right? And I feel like that's where my my problem is where instead of trying to guide them, I'm trying to teach them. And I feel like in me teaching them, I that's where my frustration comes, because I'm like, oh, you're not getting it, or oh my god, like, you know, I'm just trying to talk to you, I'm trying to have a conversation, like, you know, I'm not getting mad at you or whatnot. And I'll give you an example. So not too long ago, I'm working through this whole childhood trauma, you know, with my parents and so forth. And I don't know why, but right after the gym, you know, I was on my way to work and so forth. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really just want to, you know, talk to my mom, and I really want to show her my appreciation. And I just want to tell her I love her, because I normally don't do that. You know, it's not something that we grew up. I never grew up, you know, saying I love you to my mom. You know, their I love you was que Dios te bendiga. I don't know if that.
Which means what?
God bless you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was their I love you. You know, que Dios te bendiga, or let me, you know, date la bendición, which is let me give you the blessing, right? So
Gotcha.
that was their form of saying
You,
I love
you have to. I don't speak
Translate.
Spanish,
Gotcha.
so you
Got
have
it.
to
Okay.
translate everything for me.
Uh,
I just found out. I guess I'm a pocho, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So I'm gonna have subtitles right here. Got it. Okay. No, but nonetheless, like I just wanted to do that. You know what I mean? And it felt like I was coming from a place of sincerity. You know, I was like, you know, I really want to tell my mom I love you. I appreciate it, and so forth. You know, and I was kind of going through some stuff. So she had mentioned to me, you know, previous to that, she was like, oh, you never want to come over. Like, you just want to leave. Like, you don't want to be here, and so forth. So, you know, I called her up and I'm like, hey, mom, I just want to let you know that I love you. You know, I just feel really appreciative right now. I just want to tell you that I appreciate you for everything that you've done for me and that you continue to do for me, you know? And I was like, and I just want to be really honest with you that the reason that, you know, I don't want to be at your house, or the reason that I want to leave so quickly, is because there's a lot of trauma that I'm working through right now. And I feel like that's not a space for me to be in order for me to heal, right? And I was like, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do, you know, there's nothing that you can do right now in order
so
to help me.
yeah. So you're just giving her the
Yeah.
overall. Hey,
Yeah.
this is what it is.
Right.
I
You know,
and nothing else.
yes. And then a big part of my guilt is I feel like I'm not able to provide for my family, right?
Mhm.
I'm not able to provide to them financially, mentally, and be there for them when they need me, right? Because I'm working on myself. So I told her that I was like, you know, I just want to let you know that that's some things that I'm working on myself for me to be okay with, you know, and it has nothing to do with you. And you know, the first thing out of her mouth was like, well, I've never asked you for anything. And I was like, girl. I was like, I literally spilled this whole thing to you, and
Yeah.
I told you it had nothing to do with you, and then you still try to somehow, you know, flip it to yourself. So, you know, normally in that sense, I would have just been like I'm like, you know what, bye, like I'm over
Yeah.
this, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, mom, like I need you to just literally just hear me right now. It's not because you've asked me. It's not because any of you asked me to do any of this. It's because I want to, and it's my decision. And these are the things that I'm working through, you know. So I need you to understand that. Like, you don't have to comprehend it. You don't have to, you know exactly what's going on and so forth. But I just need you to understand that, you know. And I actually talked to that. I talked about that with my therapist. I was like, I don't know, like it was very frustrating for me, but I kept my composure. And I was like, I think it's because I just really recognized what I needed from her in that moment, and she didn't give it to me, and I recognized that she didn't give it to me, right? And what I needed was just validation. Validation from her, like, you know what, mijo, like I know you're going through this stuff, like, you know, take your time and so forth. But instead she was like, well, I didn't ask you for anything. You know?
Why do you think that she went that
That
route?
route. And again, it goes to her trauma, right? And I feel like that's something that I also work through, is figuring, is maybe with her hearing me say those things, you know, possibly triggered something in her, right? And it triggered something that she may have felt, where she may have felt like she wasn't able to, like, she's like, oh, I failed my son because he's going through this, or, you know, because I feel like there's a lot of guilt that comes with a parent and a child dynamic and so forth in that case. And I think that maybe that's what it is. And I don't know that, this is just the narrative that I'm creating,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
To understand. So I think that in itself is where that grace comes in. It's like I'm giving her that grace, to be able to feel what she's feeling and so forth, and not be upset with her, because I can't be upset with her because she's, like I said, she doesn't know the processes that I've learned, right, or so forth, or how to do this. And this is years. I'm talking years of me going to therapy. I started going to therapy when I was 20. I'm
Oh,
25 now. So
really?
yes,
Okay.
5 years. And even up until now, I feel like I've grown so much. And I always say to myself, like, damn, without therapy, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
What was the final point to where you're like, okay, enough is enough. I need to go get it, some extra help.
Some extra help. I'm like, the basis of it, I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you don't
It's
have to give me the full story.
No. I'll say it because it's some
He
real
was like,
shit,
I was in an alleyway.
Just
Just kidding.
So actually, I was in a relationship, right? And I just remember that I was getting a lot of anxiety because he was going to Vegas. He was driving to Vegas with his family.
Right.
And I was getting a lot of anxiety because he hadn't responded to me. So I'm like thinking all these things, these crazy thoughts and so forth and whatnot. And literally this is like 2 hours. He didn't even text me when he was going, like when he was in the car already starting to drive off. The last thing I heard is like, oh, I'm having breakfast, and that's it. And so like my mind just started going like wild and so forth and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh my God, what if he got into a car accident? What if something happened? What if,
Right.
things like that. And I literally didn't hear anything up until like two hours later, where he was at a gas station. And I remember calling him, and I told him like, um, I think in that moment when I called him, I was like, really upset, and I was like, oh my God, what did you text me, so forth, whatnot, yada yada yada. And then all he said was like, I'm with my family, bye. That's it. Yeah.
Well,
So I felt like in that moment, my anxiety just kicked in even more, because now I'm even more anxious about the severe, like where my relationship is at with this person, right? And this person kind of inflicted this thing onto me and whatnot. So I was like, you know what, like I'm just tired of this shit. I'm tired of these thoughts, right? Because I felt in that very moment, I felt like these thoughts is what warranted that response that he gave me. And I was like, okay, I need to do something, which is where I'm saying like, it's maybe not the best form of where I, came up with the conclusion that I need to go to therapy. But nonetheless, like, am I happy that it happened? No, but I'm happy that I was able to recognize that, okay, you know what? Something gives. I need to do something
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, you identified that
Yeah.
there was an issue
Yeah.
and you had to do something
Yeah.
about that issue.
And I always, not that I always, but I always felt anxiety, like, throughout my childhood, and, even when I was in college. So I actually dropped out of my second semester of a community college because my anxiety was just too high that I couldn't go to class. And that's when I was like, you know what, like I can't do this anymore.
Did you ever identify what the anxiety came from?
No, I mean, now that I'm working through therapy, I can
Mhm.
realize where anxiety comes from. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but anxiety comes from a state of what if. Like, what if? Like,
Right.
you're thinking about what's going to happen, what can possibly happen, and so forth. And
Yeah.
depression really stems from a place of the past.
From the yeah, I was gonna say that
Yeah.
I think it was like a meme or something, but
Mhm.
it was like, oh, anxiety is looking, you're anxious about the future, what's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and depression
Yeah.
is something that has happened in the
already.
past, and you're
Yeah.
dwelling on it.
Yeah, and it's 100% true. So I never really identified, at least then, where this anxiety come from. I mean, it came from small things like, dealing with people and group settings and so forth. So I think
Mhm.
that's where it stemmed from with college, right? And also
Gotcha.
like this insecurity of mine and so forth. But nonetheless, I started to go to therapy after that. And a lot of the beginning stages of my therapy was working through the issues in my relationship, in my relationship with this person that, I recently got into a relationship with. But nonetheless, this person was the first ever relationship I've been in, right? But also this is the first. Um, it was a lot of firsts for me. I had just, I guess, I don't want to say came to terms, because I hadn't come to terms, but this was my first gay experience as well. my first gay experience in a relationship and whatnot and so forth. So
And this is with the same
the same
guy
person.
from the Vegas
Yes, from Vegas.
incident.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was a lot of firsts,
Right.
and I felt like in the beginning of my therapy, that's really what I wanted to focus on because I'm like, I want to make this relationship work and so forth and whatnot and blah, 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 and this and that. And I thought that was really the root of why I was going to therapy was because of my relationship. But nonetheless, like through the work, I was like, no, this shit is for myself. You know what I mean? So I can figure out how to navigate and so forth. And then it really shifted onto me doing the therapy to really come to terms with my sexuality, you know? And I honestly think without therapy, I feel like right now I probably would have still been closeted.
So before that experience with that first boyfriend or
Mhm.
first, pretty much first everything,
Yeah.
right? With your sexuality,
Yeah.
how was it before? Like, what did you used to do before? How was that?
It was definitely, and it's so funny because I unpacked this too recently, but nonetheless, I guess in my head I was straight. You know what I mean?
Okay.
In my head I was straight, and even though I was like out here, getting off to like gay porn and stuff. I was like, no, I'm still straight. I'm still straight out here.
Everyone's a little gay.
I can still be in a relationship with a girl, right? I can still have a wife and kids and so forth, and still like gay porn on the side, right?
Yeah.
And then
On the side.
on the side, and then the thing came to also with like being on Grinder. So Grinder is a gay dating app.
Yeah.
So I downloaded the app when I was like 17 going into 18, and I was having these experiences with these men. And then again, so same thing. I was like, yeah, this is my secret. Like no one's gonna know, so I can still be straight, right? So I had this mentality of like,
Wait, how long ago was this?
I was 17, 18.
They had Grinder back then.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Grinder's been around since the.
I didn't know. I barely heard about this like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Not that I'm on it or anything, but I just heard
I'm
about
like, do
it.
you have a secret profile?
No.
I don't know.
Hey, I'm like, let me check my account right now.
Let's tell me to pull it up.
No.
No, but yeah, so that kind of came, with this whole concept of am I gay, am I not gay, am I not, and so forth. And you know what?
How long did you wrestle with that thought?
Oh, I want to say all throughout high school.
Oh, okay.
And I sit in
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I sit and think about it, and there's a lot of stories out there of members of the LGBTQIA plus community where they say like, I always knew this, I always knew that.
Wait, they have a I. They added an I in there
Yes.
for intersex.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
It's been a while.
Yeah,
Has it?
It's been a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
What do you call it, Ray? The alphabet.
the alphabet.
Yeah,
Well, everyone says the
Yeah,
alphabet.
everybody says the alphabet.
Mafia.
I've heard
Mafia.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, alphabet mafia.
But there's a lot of stories that I hear and whatnot, and people telling their stories. And they say that, I always knew I was gay. I always knew that I was in the wrong body and so forth. And I think that in itself it's really good for them because they had a sense of themselves already, right? But for me, it wasn't the case. I never knew, like growing up, I never knew I was gay. I never knew. I thought it was just normal. You know what I mean? I thought it was normal that, I just liked hanging around with girls, playing with girls a bit more than with guys and so forth. I always felt like I was different. I always felt like I was like less, I guess, boyish, right? I didn't play the sports and whatnot. I guess in those norms, I felt different. But nonetheless, I never felt like, oh shit, I might be gay, because that never was taught to me. I've never seen it. I never, I don't have anyone that's gay in my family, so I've never been exposed to it. So like throughout my childhood, I never questioned myself in that sense. The only questions came from when they would tease me about it, when they would be like, oh, you're being gay, or you're being a little faggot or whatever, or joto or maricon or things like that. And all these words is things that I always would hear. And my name is Raymond. And I don't know if you guys can kind of come up with the word that they used to call me.
I can't think about that.
They would switch the R for a G.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I grew up always hearing that. So nonetheless, like with that, I felt that, I don't know, I kind of felt in a way that these things were kind of, assigned to me without me even knowing. Like I didn't know I was gay, but I hear this person calling me gay based on the fact that I'm over here playing with playing house with this girl, whatever the case may be. So it was really tough for me in that sense. But nonetheless, like throughout my childhood, I never questioned it. You know, I always did get upset when they would call me that or so forth, and I just would be like, whatever. But it wasn't until I hit high school where it really just like, you know, hit me. I was like, am I gay? Am I not gay? And so forth and whatnot. Um, and I think that a big part of me too was the fact that I wanted to prove all those people that were calling me gay and stuff wrong. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be gay. I'm gonna be straight.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I think that's where my battle came from. It's like, no, I can't let them win. I can't let them win. They think they say this, but I'm actually not. I'm gonna prove them wrong. And I think that stems from my personality and who I am as
Yeah.
my character.
You wanted to self-prophesize and say, okay, yeah,
you know,
I'm not this way, and people
Right.
are telling me that I am.
Yeah.
So you wanted to go against what
yeah,
they were saying.
100%. So I feel like that's where my battle and that's where my inability to accept myself came from. So nonetheless, you know, through these experiences that I've gone through and with therapy, it really did help me be okay with it, you know. And it's so funny because I wasn't able to be like straight up like, oh yeah, I'm gay. Maybe I want to say it took me about maybe like 2 years ago that I was able to really just say like, yeah, I'm gay. Even my friends would ask me like, I don't know, I don't like labels. I would tell them all the time, I
Okay.
don't like labels. Don't label me, you know,
Yeah.
because I just couldn't come to terms with it. I didn't. It still felt like it really felt like when I would say, oh, like it would, you know, my throat,
Mhm.
like I couldn't say it. But now like I can openly say it and be proud of it. You know what I mean? But it did take a lot of work to get there, and I think that therapy was the number one thing that allowed me to get to that point, you know, because we worked through it, you know, and we worked through these things and so forth. And there's something really interesting. It's called the Kinsey scale. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it,
Mm-mm. Can you pull that out?
but the Kinsey
Yeah.
scale is basically the scale of sexuality. So it's on a spectrum, right? So a lot of people claim to be, you know, I guess not claim, but you know, it's all a spectrum. So someone who is gay doesn't necessarily have to be 100% gay. You know what I mean? I can like girls a little bit or whatever the case may be, and so forth. And even with bisexuality and whatnot and so forth, you know, it really just comes down to what you like. It doesn't
So
matter.
in a sense, sexuality is not binary.
Yeah,
It's a
not.
spectrum.
Yeah, it's a spectrum. You know, it's something that it really
And
just
where did you get that? Where did you
from my
get?
therapist.
Okay.
Basically, it's like your level of gayness. Like, how gay are you? You know what I
Really,
mean?
your gay meter,
Yeah, my gay meter, right? So
your
he was like,
gaydar,
"Where do you
kinda
feel? Where do you feel like you land? Like, do you feel like you're here,
Kinsey
you're
scale.
there, you're this, or you're that?" And I feel like working through that allowed me to get to the point of realization that you know what, it's okay for me to 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 like man and to do this and
Yeah.
to that, and but also like women on the side, you know?
So, in creating the scale, the Kinsey team interviewed thousands of people about their sexual histories. Research showed that sexual behavior, thoughts, and feelings towards the same or opposite sex were not always consistent across time. Instead of assigning people to three categories, heterosexual, bisexual, and homosexual, the team used a 7-point scale. It ranges from 0 to 6 with an additional category of X.
Yeah.
Oh, so it ranges from 0, which is exclusively heterosexual, to X, meaning no social sexual contacts or reactions.
Yeah. So I'm like
Interesting.
this scale in itself, like it really put a lot of things into perspective for me, and I feel like this practice or whatever the case may be, because my therapist would have me like, "Where do you think you're at today? Like, do you think you like?"
Oh, she asked you every day, or
it was a he.
they?
Not every day, but like on our sessions, like you
Mhm.
know, when I would bring up the topic of sexuality, he would ask me like, "Okay,
How you
where do
feeling
you feel?"
today?
Yeah, and I would be like, I don't know. I think I'm into girls a little bit more today than I am to
Really?
guys," you know, things like that and so forth. And the basis of him doing that really just came down to being like, you know, it's okay for you to like either or. It's okay for you um, you know, for this to be a part of you. You know what I mean? So nonetheless, like through that therapy work,
Wait,
like
can you keep that up? I want to see what. I'm sorry,
no
Ray.
worries.
I want to see when they came up with the scale. Like when, like I understand that they researched thousands of
I think it's nine. No, that's published.
Yeah, because I feel like this 48 really.
1948.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
1948, Alfred Kinsey, Wardell Pomeroy, and Clyde Martin developed the heterosexual homosexual rating scale, more commonly known as the Kinsey scale, first published in Sexual Behavior in the Human Male. 1948, the scale accounted for research findings that showed people did not fit into exclusive heterosexual or homosexual. 1948, damn.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because, I mean, they came up with the scale in 1948, and I think it was like in the 70s that they took off homosexuality as a mental illness.
Yeah.
That is fucking wild. It took
Yeah.
them like 30 years to take that off. That's
It's been around forever. I mean, think about like Greece. Like you have actual statues or paintings of things of men being with men, women being with women. I think it's just recently that they didn't accept it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that's a whole conversation in itself, to talk about the how homosexuality has always been around and the acceptance of it and so forth. But nonetheless, like, at least for me being um growing up in that Mexican household, that was never taught to me, right? I always envisioned me getting married to a girl, me having a kid. Like I would freaking come up with I'm like, now that I think about it, it kind of shows that I was a little fruity, but like I would imagine my wedding, like,
Mhm.
I would come up with what is my wedding gonna be like, and what I want my like envision my wife wearing. Maybe it was just a projection of what I wanted to wear. I don't know, but all these
Uh-huh.
things, right? So it was always really instilled and embedded in me, and I think that's why it was so hard for me to break through to it too, because that's all I knew, and it's just like, no, I can't. Like I have to get married to a girl. I
Yeah.
have to have a kid and so forth. And I never saw anything with happening with the guy. Even when I was in my relationship, I was like, this doesn't feel real. I
Right.
think I'm gonna still end up with a girl. You know what I mean?
Right. Um what do you say to a male that's living with your situation that doesn't accept
Acknowledge it.
themselves?
Um, I think it really
Like, what
just.
would you tell them?
I think what I would tell them is definitely, it's okay. It's okay for you to feel that. I think that's the first step is acknowledging and also accepting that that's how you feel in that moment.
Right.
But also realizing that if you truly are questioning it, then do something about it. And by me saying doing something about it is really like, you know, trying to figure out why am I questioning this, or why am I challenging this? Where does that come from? And like I said, it's only recently that I just realized that it came from a place of me trying to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
I was at the gym with my trainer, and we were talking about sexuality and so forth and whatnot, and I was like, yeah. He asked me like, oh, do you think it's rooted into the Latino culture? I was like, yeah, this and that. I was like, yeah, it's never been showed up to me, so forth, like, this and that. And I was like, oh shit, it's because I wanted to prove them wrong. So on and so on and so on. So I really think it's just a matter of like, telling them also like you're gonna get to that point. And I feel like once you get to that point, you're gonna be such a happier person, because you're not happy right now. Like I would be straight up, you're not happy, and really, as cliche as it sounds, it's like living in your truth is the best thing you can possibly do.
Yeah. Ultimately being yourself.
Being yourself,
Yeah.
and if yourself is that, you know, I don't know, being pretending to be straight or whatever the case may be, if that works for you and you're okay with that, then by all means, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like continue doing it, if that really truly somehow makes you happy, then do it. But I also feel like a lot of it stems from trying to, you know, satisfy somebody else, right? Whether it be that family member or whether it be
Family
that
member, dad,
dad,
mom,
mom,
cousin,
yeah,
boyfriend,
satisfying any of those
girlfriend.
people. And I
Yeah.
feel like when it comes to place of being that you're working, you're hiding yourself, and you're putting in extra work to hide yourself, right? Because you have to pretend that you're straight, you have to pretend this and that and so forth. When you do those things, you're putting more work on yourself and more strain on yourself, when you can just easily be like, all right, I'm gay, that's it,
Hmm.
and accept it, or whatever they identify as. And really coming down to the point where like it's okay for you to like this, like that. You don't have to, fit into this category or to this
I mean, that's why we have the
label,
Kinsey
right?
scale, right?
Exactly.
Right? Because
Um,
I'm thinking like, okay, so if people are men, women, or whatever gender, if they're having a struggle
mm-hmm.
with trying to identify of what their sexuality is,
Yeah.
like, isn't that why the scale is put in place
Yeah.
to figure out what they're feeling or what that day is? I mean, what they're feeling for the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my question is, like, what do you like? Is there any like experience that where like somebody would tell you like, oh, you're confused
Oh,
or anything like that?
all the time.
Yeah. Do you
I
still get that at your age? Like I get it, you're
no,
you're younger
no.
than me, but
Yeah.
like,
No, not now. Definitely 22 is completely different than it was in 20. I mean, even though it's just short of years,
mhm,
2020, 2019, it's a completely different shift and change, which is it's a positive one, right?
right.
But even when I came out to my mom, she was like, "No, I think you're confused because you haven't been in a relationship with a girl."
Mhm.
That's the number one experience that I had. Um and I think that for a long time too, I tried to mask it with being like, "Oh yeah, I'm bisexual." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm bisexual, so that way it can kind of ease the burn a little bit. Like, okay, I like guys, but remember, I still like girls too. You know what I mean? So I think that's what it came down to. But even then, the bisexuality, I guess the questions and the challenging, it's funny because it doesn't really stem from straight people. For straight people or straight cis people, it's very much so like, no, you can't like one or the other. You have to just like one. And within the community, it's very much so like, oh, you consider yourself bisexual, but you're still sleeping with men, so you're gay.
Gotcha. So
You know,
there's more
there's so much more to it where it's like
there's more thought put into it when you're in
the community.
the
Yeah,
community
well, I guess
versus when you're
stemming from
out.
the community. You know what I mean? The community is very much so like, you're just again. I mean, I was using it as a mask up, right? But
Mhm.
nonetheless, they use that. They're like, oh no, don't. You're saying you're bisexual just because you're trying to hide the fact that you're gay. Like, it's okay, just come out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But when a person is truly bisexual, you know what I mean. That's how they feel and that's what they think. But yet they have their own community just in their ear, being like, no, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay, you're gay. You know what I mean? And being like, oh, just own up to it, just own up to it. You're just using that as a way to still be in the closet or whatever the case may be. So it's really hard. It's really hard, and I think that's something that's often not really talked about, is the fact that
That the community has its own
yes,
struggles
yes,
within it.
100%. You know,
What do
um,
you think that's the like what's the what am I trying to ask here? What's I no, I know my question and I just need to
like
get it out. I
what's the
needed to get it out there without sounding like a total ignorant
what's the
prick.
root of it? Like,
What
what
no,
is
like
it?
what's the like you have LGBTQI
A
plus,
plus.
A plus, right? So what's the community like what's the group that is low on the totem pole that people don't really acknowledge that are just left without any acknowledgement or being inclusive. Do you
Yeah.
understand
I
what I'm
mean,
trying to get at?
I think I kind of get your
Yeah.
question. And I'm gonna try to answer it in the best way
Hmm.
possible.
Amber, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get like
Like
what is the
what?
group within the LGBTQIA plus that is less represented or
Exactly.
not
Thank you.
seen or
Yeah.
maybe like not
Well,
talked
well,
about?
Thank you.
if we definitely go into it and really dive into that conversation,
We can dive into
it really comes down to, especially recently, have you guys seen in the news and the laws that are being passed, is definitely the attack like on trans people.
hmm
You know what I mean? Transgender men and women and so forth. And I feel like um, their representation is in a negative light, right? It's like, oh, this man trying to become a woman or this woman
hmm
trying to become a man. it's easy for them to accept like, oh, this gay person, this guy just likes a guy. But when it comes down to someone, not feeling okay with their gender identity, and they want to switch that and so forth, it becomes an issue. You know what I mean? It becomes an issue where they switch that line, right? So I definitely think that within the community, that's definitely the group that's most impacted right now, and underrepresented in that sense, and I think it's sad, and I think that even within the community ourselves, like we can do a better job at embracing them, and also uplifting, and making sure that they get the same, which I mean, it's been a long time coming where we get a respect in itself. I mean, we see Pride Month, right? We see all these things and so forth. Even on TV, there's a lot more representation, but it's just like all those letters aren't aligned, although they're in that same straight, LGBTQI, like all those letters in which it comes to representation and comes into these legislation and so forth. It's not all equal. You know what I mean? We preach equality and so forth, but nonetheless, like when it comes down to it, we're all seen differently, even within this community. You know, and that's the thing that kind of sucks. And I feel like me myself, like I've detached myself away from being part of the LGBTQIA plus community for so long too.
Why?
Is because of I have one society that's against me, right? Society in itself of being a gay man, like they're all the odds are against me, like you're gay, this is now blah blah, but also within the gay community, it's like, oh, you're gay, but you're not attractive enough, or you're this, or you're that, or you're not gay enough, or you're too straight, or you're too masculine, or it's all these things that come up. So that in itself makes it even harder. So I have two ends. One, this straight world, right? This straight world where I'm living in, that's I'm not fully accepted and I can't be myself. But then there's also this gay world that, again, I'm not fully accepted and I can't be myself either. So it's just like I have these two worlds that I'm trying to be a part of, but yet none of these worlds really want me. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what it came down to, where I felt like that's where my detachment too came from this community, and me accepting the fact that I was gay too. It's a lot of stuff. I think it's a lot of things that came up for me, that made it really hard for my process. But nonetheless, like I said, I'm in a better space now. I feel more proud than ever. I'm happy with myself, and it definitely has come from a place of healing, and also just taking care of myself. You know what I mean? Self-care is the best care. And I've been doing so many practices for that, and I feel like that's what's gotten me to this point.
What are some of the practices that you've been doing?
Definitely doing things that I want to do. You know what I mean? Doing things that I want to do, and taking out that whole mindset of like, oh, I don't want to do this because I'm going to get judged, or I'm going to do this because, I'm not going to be good at it, or whatever. Like,
inhibition is a fucking bitch. Can we pull up I want to share this with everybody. I feel like nobody knows what inhibition means.
I had to ask like 3 times.
Yeah.
Repeat it again.
But yeah, that inhibition follows us like wherever. It doesn't matter who you are, what type of lifestyle you live, what type of if you're a male, female, or non-binary or whatever. Like it's just a human experience that everybody follows. And well, there's inhibition. There we go. Inhibition definition. Inhibition. Can you scroll up a little bit? A feeling that makes one self-conscious and unable to act in a relaxed and natural way.
Yeah, definitely.
That stops a lot of us from doing the things that we want to do.
100%. And I feel like has stopped me from so many things I could have done, and I wish I would have done. You know what I mean? But I can't live in a place of I wish I could have. I can just live in a place of like, all right, I'm gonna do that shit now.
I can do it now.
So definitely one of the biggest things right now is that I went on back to being with the trainer, right? Physically, like, I want to work on my body and so forth and whatnot. Because for a long time, I let myself, I don't want to say I let myself go. Because everyone's beautiful. I want to preach body positivity, right? But nonetheless, like, I wasn't happy with myself, you know what I mean? And that came from its own trauma and my own insecurity. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, I have the money. Let me invest in myself, right? And a lot of the times, even with that in itself, I would get like, why can't you just do it by yourself, or why are you paying all this money, or this and that, like, oh, that's too expensive and whatnot. And I'm just like, well, I want to do it, you know what I mean? I want to
Yeah.
do it. I want to train her because of my reasons, right? Like I need that help and I need this, and I know I can do this shit by myself, you know what I mean? I know I can pick up a weight, I know I can watch a YouTube video, but no, I need the guidance and I need the accountability because I know how it work, right? So that's one.
I like that. So you're using the trainer as accountability, and then also as a trainer, somebody. I mean, you're going into something that you have no clue about.
Yeah.
Like, you don't when you go get a haircut, you don't you
Yeah.
go to a barber to
Yeah,
get your
exactly.
haircut,
I mean,
right?
you can cut your own hair and be with a
You
fucked up
can.
haircut, or go and get a fresh fade. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, like, that's one of the things that I really like. You know,
Okay.
you know what, I'm gonna do it. So I am, and I've been working
Cool.
with him for the past 2 months, and I'm continuing to work
Yeah.
with him. So
It and to on that, it's like we live in a society that is so self-sufficient that you just go on YouTube, you can
yeah,
Google search this, and you can, that works with a lot of things, but not not there's certain things to where you would need
yeah,
and want
and
that
then
guidance
everyone
from.
is different. Some people
Right.
can do it. Some are self sufficient. Some
Right.
have come up, on themselves and so forth. But that's not the case for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'd freaking deal with anxiety, depression. I have ADHD. Like,
Mhm.
I'm a crazy motherfucker. You know what I mean? So like, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I need someone to really, like, be that sense of comfortability.
Mhm.
One, also the accountability, and also just to have that counterpart.
I think accountability, especially when you're learning
Yeah.
something new, or learning something new. Let's just go with that. If you're learning something new, accountability
It's
is
the biggest thing.
is
Yeah.
the biggest thing, because you can start something, but if there's no accountability, then
Yeah.
like how can you keep moving forward
Right.
without holding, and you can hold yourself accountable, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's
Think about it.
nine
You can be
times
like,
out
you
of
know what?
10, it's not the
I'm
case.
not going to even deal with that today. I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Some things that I've done recently too is like, so I did Botox recently. I don't have it anymore. It wore off, so I'm due for some touch up. But Botox. I did Botox, and that's something for me because I'm just
Wow.
like,
Okay.
that self care aspect of it. Like, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, my
Right.
thing with Botox was like, oh, people are gonna think that, oh, I'm trying to do work on my face, and if I did, who cares? You know what I mean? Or, I want to look a certain way, or whatever the case may be. And again, it's like that prejudgment that I felt is what stopped me from doing these things. But I've always wanted to do it, to try
Right.
it out and so forth. So that's another one. Um, the most recent one is I decided to take on vocal lessons for
Oh,
singing.
nice.
So,
Okay.
I don't think I'm a singer, and I'm not going to sing for you today,
Okay.
because I'm not there yet.
If
I've already had 2 sessions.
if you want to hear a Mindbuzz guest sing, go back to the last episode that we did
Okay.
with Tamara Henson.
Yeah,
she did a great job.
She's amazing. I
Go
heard
go
it,
to
so-
go to you can stop at, I think it's an hour and 5 seconds, to where she sang
Yeah.
her song "Summertime Love." So
Yeah,
just
so-
yeah.
So I'm not there yet. Maybe on the next one. But nonetheless, like, that's something that I've been wanting to do for the longest.
That's so cool, man.
I wanted to do it for the longest.
That is awesome.
And I was just like, you know what? When I sing in the car, I sound okay. I'm like,
Right.
what if I push this a little forward? A
Okay.
little more, or I dive into it to see what can come out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's the overall goal with it? Is it just something that you've always wanted to do, that you want to do, or do you want to actually like produce something, or do you want to write a song and perform the song?
I definitely feel that music in itself is a way of it's therapeutic, right?
Absolutely.
100%. So I feel like I don't have the foundation of writing music, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, and so forth. So I really think that one out of me going to singing lessons and with my vocal coach is really finding my voice. You know what I mean?
Okay.
To see, not to see if I have one, because that's not the basis of it. You know what I mean? If I didn't have one, or if I did, or whatever, the point of the vocal coach is to kind of, guide me through that, right? So definitely to find my voice, and what I'm capable of doing. I guess my capacity.
Okay.
I think that's where I want to get to, is that I want to see what my
What's
capacity,
yeah,
what I'm
what
capable of.
yeah, what's your potential
Yeah,
in this
you know?
type of medium?
Right. And then, learning the techniques and so forth and whatnot, But ultimately, like my goal is to write a song. Like I
Oh,
do,
okay.
I want to write a song. And
Nice.
there's a song that I'm obsessed with right now. It's called Bruises by Louis Cabaldi, I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure his
Gotcha.
last name. But anyways, it's a song that I've like,
Type of music is it?
oh fuck. I honestly can't tell you, man.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
none,
sad boy music.
yeah, it's
Is it?
definitely, sad boy vibes.
Sad.
um but my goal is to sing that song in English, but also to translate it into Spanish and sing it in Spanish.
Gotcha.
Because I've been looking around for covers and they haven't been it. And I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I can do something with this.
With your trainer, are you singing in English or are you singing in Spanish?
With my vocal coach, English.
English.
Yeah. And I know that in itself too, with the Spanish and the English, it's different, parts of my body that I use, I guess.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But nonetheless, like, I just want the foundation. You know what I mean? And I think that's my goal.
Oh,
is
that's
to
cool.
Get the foundation from going to her. But
Music is very therapeutic.
It is.
Like if I'm nervous on the road,
Yeah.
I'll just put on like a karaoke type of thing on
Yeah.
YouTube and just let it play and
yeah.
and sing a song to back before I had my new car, I had a freaking trash box,
A
a death trap.
Uh-huh.
And I get nervous on the road if
Yeah.
if I'm driving from somewhere very far and I get nervous and I
Yeah.
can just hear the cars outside because the windows wouldn't close properly, the doors
Right.
wouldn't close properly, and I would throw on an instrumental track or something on karaoke
yeah.
and just fucking sing my heart out because it
Yeah.
calmed me. Like even some days, like if I'm feeling like total dog shit, like I will come in the studio and do a couple of karaoke tracks,
Yeah.
and I'll just feel
That's dope. Yeah.
I'll feel relieved.
Yeah. Yeah. Music is literally like, it's so therapeutic. And I feel like for me, it's been my way of healing through certain things and especially certain experiences, because some of the songs do align with what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
That's the point, right? That's why the music is made and so forth. And really, when you dive into the lyrics, you're like, oh shit, I do feel this. And then now that I hear it being sung, I'm like, oh shit, like, it has a different feeling to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like ultimately, like I don't see. I mean, I don't want to limit myself. I'm like, who's to say I don't fucking become a Grammy nominated
You have never you don't you
right?
never know.
I can't say
And-
that, but then I wouldn't know if I wouldn't have done it regardless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, might as well can do it. Might as well try it out, give it a try. And if I don't like it, and if it's not for me, and by my way of finding out, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay for me not to like it, end up liking it, or even make something of it, right? It's an experience that I decided to take on, and it was meant for me in that moment, and so forth, and that's how I feel with anything. It's like, you know what, this served a purpose in this point in time for a certain reason, right? And acknowledging that and just being aware of it. So yeah, there's a lot more stuff that I want to do, especially with the book that I'm working on and writing on. That's something that I've always wanted to do. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? I've always wanted to write.
Dude, I would definitely suggest Big Magic and Bird by Bird.
Gill,
Okay, I'll look into
Yeah.
it.
what are some of your before you kick the bucket type of things that you want to learn or kind of do that your inhibition has stopped you? What's a few things?
For one, as of lately, is stand up comedy.
Really?
Yeah, that's one. And what else? I
All
can't honestly. I can't think of anything else.
Didn't you say surfing?
Surfing is
Ooh.
one. I want to learn how to
Yeah.
surf.
Taekwondo or something?
Jujitsu. I want to. So actually, those are my three. So jujitsu, surfing, and stand up comedy. Yeah.
All right, fool, say a joke right now.
I don't. You caught me off guard.
Just kidding.
It's like a chicken cross the road.
Right? No.
Knock knock.
But I think it's a good
Who's
thing.
there?
I think it's a good
My
thing
dick.
to even. Anyways, I think it's even a good thing to know what those things are that you know that you're like,
Absolutely.
I want to do it, but I something's stopping me, or this judgment and so forth. And yeah, I would just say, just fucking do it. What's the worst that can happen? And we hear a lot of people speak on this, and we hear a lot of, at least I've heard a lot of like, oh, just do it, just go for it, and so forth. And it's just like, it's always like, whatever, like, you don't know what you're saying. But it's really true. Like, it's like, just fucking go for it. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I learned from my vocal coach, which like blew my mind, which is something that's
Share
so
it. Blow my
simple.
mind. Blow everybody's mind here.
But you know, as the process of us singing, like I kept stopping because I'm like, oh, I don't like how this sounds. Like, oh, that sounds ugly, or oh, I don't want to make that noise because, you know, I want to sound, you know, okay, or I want this person to think that I know how to sing, right? And she was like, you have to be okay with the ugly in order to get where you want to get to. You know, you have to be okay with the muck. That's what she always says.
The muck?
Yeah, she's white.
Ooh.
She's white. So yeah. But I love her. She's great. But she's like, you're in the muck right now. Just be in the mud. You know, just be in the mud. And she's like, she also told me
Mud or muck?
Muck.
Muck.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she also uses the term muck too. And then she told me, she's like, stop trying to fix everything in the moment. You just gotta let it go.
Yes.
You just gotta just do it, and then we can revisit it.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, I can see you thinking, I can see you, you know, you're like, how do I fix this? You know, this is that. And that's just how my mind works, right? You know, my ADHD brain, I'm, you know, super analytical and so forth. But she was just like, you just have to be okay with, you know, it really, there's different ways that you can say this, okay with the process, okay with the journey, whatever the case may be. But it really took for her to say it the way that she said it in order for me to understand it and comprehend it. You know, that I need to stop trying to fix these things while I'm doing these things, because I'm not going to get anywhere. It's not going to get me anywhere. You know what I mean? I'm going to try to fix something, and then something else is going to happen, and I'm going to try to fix that. And now I just have all these, like, you know, these gaps of me not going through this process because I try to fix it then and there, and then it ends up just being a whole fucked up mess, you know? So I think that in itself resonated so much with me. And I feel like that's what I'm applying to everything. Even with my journey with my fitness, I'm just like, you know what? This is the phase where, you know, I'm starting to lose weight.
You're building endurance.
Yeah, building endurance. You know, I'm not going to pop up with the chest, with the muscles, like right away.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm getting there.
You have to start somewhere.
Yes. So that's really kind of where I'm at in life. It's just like, I'm just taking the journey. I'm just riding the wave, you know. And I'm being okay with it.
Yeah.
You know.
And plus, you learn by doing.
Yes.
Like, you can't. We also, in our human experience, we all have this expectations of doing something and learning something new, having the expectations of us already knowing and already expecting us to be, okay, I'm going to go as if being a stand-up comic or starting a podcast, being number one. Oh shit, I'm gonna do a couple of episodes. Yeah. I'm gonna do a couple of clubs, and I'm gonna be a hit success. Yeah. Spotify, get your contract ready for me because I'm ready for my $100 million. Yeah. It does not work like that.
It's our own ego that really stops us.
Exactly, and it's just the expectation that we have of course, it's okay to have like a good expectation of us doing something, but it's not realistic.
Right. No,
and knowing where reality sets in versus, okay, when you first learn something, you're not going to be good at it. Like, how long did it take us to read in elementary school? Right? Like, and it took us a while. How long? And then to go even, you know, back further than that, how long did it take us to know a language?
Yeah.
Like, it takes time, and it takes like day by day, bird by bird, to learn a certain, you know, certain medium, a certain experience, a certain type of thing that you want to do. Like, like surfing, for instance. I've already, I don't have expectations of myself already knowing being the next fucking I'm gonna be on the sport magazine of a surfing magazine. Like, it's that's look at me. I'm not athletic. That's it's not gonna happen. Like, it won't. It's just silly but that's just our human experience. Right. We have this expectation, and why is that? Like, why do we have that expectation jumping into something that we're barely learning? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think because of social media now. I think social media really paints a picture of like these success, you know, quote things, and we tend to like want to emulate that, or even say like, oh, look at them, they're the same age as I am and they're doing this and I'm fucking a loser, you know? And it's like it's hard. It's pressure that's being put on ourselves.
I agree.
Yeah, but with that, there's no. They don't show the struggle. They show the wins,
dude. Oh my fucking god!
They show the wins.
That you said this because this is literally something that I just told my trainer. I was like, bro, I fucking hate this because on TikTok and whatnot, these motherfuckers go from this transformation from like, you know, them being, I don't know, let's say 300 pounds and then them losing weight and becoming super muscular. Like, but they don't show the struggle. I was like, I need someone that's gonna be super fucking real about this. I'm like, in these videos, nobody says, or these fitness videos or whatever, like no one's like, damn, this shit fucking hurts. Cause like, you know, when we do our workouts, I'm like, fuck, this shit hurts, man. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm in pain, you know? Yeah. And they don't do that. You know, they don't showcase that. They don't showcase that this shit hurts. This fucking meal plan that I'm in is fucking depressing. You know what I mean? Yeah, we have these people here and there that kind of give an insight, but they don't really get raw with it, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that's what it comes down to, is that they only show the end result, so we expect to already have the end result.
Yes.
You know, and that's what makes it so hard. And I feel like that in itself is what really comes down to stopping us, because we're just like, whoa, we're not gonna get to that end result. You know what I mean? Because it looked like they just did it so fast, right? It looks like the way that social media perceives these things,
right,
is so accessible, so easy, you know? And then one thing that I really like, what my trainer says too, is like a lot of these fitness gurus or whatnot, like a big part of it is genetics, you know? Genetics, like how their body is built and how, you know, their genes are made to, you know, pack on muscle or whatever the case may be. I'm like, yeah, you're fucking right. I'm over here looking like with my, you know, shape like this or whatever is because of my genes, you know what I mean? And I have to work towards it to get it a certain way, or I have to work 10 times harder to get it to look like that because of something within my genetic DNA, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a big part that a lot of people don't talk about. Like,
it's funny that you say that, because I always say the story of when I was younger. My parents took me to the doctor, and you know, my mom was telling the man like, oh, like she's short, like, you know, for her age, like, is that okay? Is it normal? And then he looked at them and he's like, where do you want her to be tall from? And he looked at both of them like saying like, you guys are both short. Like, how? That's funny. Like, why do you want a tall kid? Like, where do you think it's gonna come from? And I think that you're right. Like, it's a lot of it is genetics, and a lot of it too. Like for us, like, or at least for me, like as a woman, like, I see these Instagram girls and these models and everything, and then you find out that it's bodies that were worked on, and no shade to that, because if I had the money to do it, I'd probably do it tomorrow, you know. But a lot of it is that's what we're idolizing, and that's what we're seeing are these, oh, look at her skinny waist, I'll never have that.
Yeah, and
it's like,
on top of that, it's very much so the fact that these people have the privilege to do that. You know what I mean? The privilege that comes from it. You know, the privilege of being able to have the accessibility to these healthy foods or whatever the case may be. The privilege to be able to work out fucking every single day for 2-3 hours in itself. Like, you know what I mean? And I know there's the whole concept like, oh, if you want to do it, you can do it and so forth. And yeah, that's 100% right. But also in me having to do it, like, I have to put in extra work, right? So I think it just comes down to a lot of stuff, but nonetheless, like, it's just, even just on the base of social media, you know, it really makes things a little bit, how can I say this? It makes things seem a little bit more attainable than they really are, you know? And I think that's what the core of the issue is. It's like, everyone just wants it just like that, and it's not the case.
Well, that's the society that we're living in right now.
100%.
And that's we have so much information at our fingertips. We have Amazon Prime, we have Netflix. We don't have to wait a week until we get like a full schedule of whatever show we want to watch. We can just download a full season and just watch it the way through. We don't have to wait. We can order fucking toilet paper and get it within the next couple of hours, or go to Target and pick up an order. We don't have to walk into the fucking store anymore.
it's definitely embedded in our society now. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it harder. That comes down to this whole concept of inhibition. You know what I mean? That um, we're scared. We have already these preconceived notions that we're not gonna be able to get there because
Mm-hmm.
we don't have it at our fingertips. You know, like certain things. So, but nonetheless, like
How do you work through your inhibition?
it's been hard. It's been fucking hard to do that shit because even with even right now with my vocal coach and
Mm-hmm.
the things that I'm doing with like my trainer and my book, these things that I'm taking on myself, I'm just like I want to fucking finish already, or I want to be there already. You know what I mean? But I think a realization that I made is very much so like if I don't do it now, um, it's just gonna be the same cycle over again, right? If I start later, or if I don't do it, or if I don't get to it, I'm gonna be stuck in that same like, oh, I should have done it, or oh fuck, why didn't I do it? You know what I mean? And I feel like for a long time, that's what I was. That's the conversation that I was in. Is I was in this conversation in my head about being like, fuck, I didn't start when I was 21. So, all right, let me start when I'm 22. All
Mm-hmm.
right, I didn't start when I was 22. Let me start when I'm 23. You know, and I'm really at that age. I don't know if 25 is the mark or whatnot. I don't know if you guys can, attest to this, but I'm just like, fuck, I'm getting old. You know, I'm getting older, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the halfway mark. Like, it's either now or never. And even with that mindset, I'm just like, all right, this is it. Like, I need to stop. Con las chingaderas, I need to stop with the bullshit. Like,
Right.
I need to get it done, because what is it going to help me um, when I'm 26 or 27 that I didn't get it done now? Might as well do it now. So either A, it can be easier. B, I've already gone through that journey or whatever. So now it's going to be a different pathway in the future or whatever comes from it. You know what I mean? That's really where I'm at right now. It's just like, you know what? It's go time. Really,
Right.
it kind of comes down to it, and it's the concept of age and so forth and whatnot. But it's not in a place of where it's just like, oh, I feel like I'm not doing shit with my life. It's not coming from that place.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from a place like, all right, let's just get through it. Like, let's
Get through
done. Just get through it.
And you're taking that concept of let's just get through it, and you're taking it through every facet of your life.
Yes. And I'm like, I always keep referring back to therapy, but it's because of the therapy, man. Like, I'm able to sit with certain things that happened recently, and I'm like, fuck, at 21 or 22, like, I wouldn't have known this, I wouldn't have been able to process this the way that I'm processing it, right? So with therapy, it's like that wasn't a journey in itself, and I went through it and all those years and so forth. So I feel like me realizing like, oh shit, I see the growth in myself, and I see that by me doing that when I did it at that point in time is why I'm here today in a different mindset and a different headspace, and I'm able to tackle these things differently. So that's how I feel like I'm applying these things with all the stuff that I want to do, right? Is that if I do it now and I go through this journey and this and that, it's gonna be a different situation in the future.
It's gonna make it easier.
It's gonna make it easier,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and I feel like we want it to be easy now, right? We want it to be easy right in the moment. And I feel like I've left out of that
Drifted away from that.
shifted away from
Yeah.
that too, where I'm just like, this is gonna take some work, man. This is gonna be hard. I tell my therapist all the time, like, fuck, I thought I dealt with this already. Like, why am I bringing this up again? You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
like, I thought I dealt with my childhood trauma already.
Yeah.
Like, why are we bringing this up again? And she's always just like, it's not to trigger you or anything, but it's just like we really have to work on these things in order to move forward. Like,
Yeah.
and these things they're always gonna come up. They're always going to come up. And I'm just like, fuck, but why? Like, why do they keep coming up? We talk about a situation. She's like, oh, does this remind you of anything? I'm just like, no, it reminds me of right now. Like, what are you talking about? But she's like, but then once she kind of just lets me talk it out, and I'm just like, oh shit. I make the realization myself, like, oh yeah, you're right. It is because I don't know. I was dropped off the bed when I was a kid. That's why I'm feeling this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things like that. So I'm just like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, And I feel like when you have that connection with those things in the past, it just makes it easier to understand. You know what I mean? As opposed to being like, oh, fuck, why the fuck, or this and that. But now you're able to you're aware of it, you acknowledge it, you address it, and you heal from it. I'm gonna coin that, by the way. So I'm gonna put that on a shirt.
Do it again. Say that again. That was amazing. I like that.
So
TM.
So one is acknowledging it,
Uh-huh.
two is addressing it, three is damn, I already forgot what I said.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
when
yeah,
you
we
listen
cut back,
back, a good
right?
thing that this is recorded. So.
But yeah, so I think that's where it stems from too. It's
Uh,
just like it's always gonna come up. All these things are gonna come up. Even this whole concept of inhibition is always gonna come up. You know what
yeah.
I mean? It's just really about how you address it. You know what I mean? And how you're able to work through it. You know? And sometimes people don't want to put in the work,
No.
and they just want to be okay with it. And again, that's okay if they do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's no one's. I feel like it's no one's right to tell a person that they're doing something right or wrong, right? Because at the end of the day, it's what works for them.
What works for them, and I'll tell you what works for me. Jumping into different things that I am feeling, and uncomfortability is a word that I throw around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's starting something new or doing something that you have no clue about, or whatever the case may be, but feeling uncomfortable is part of that inhibition that you feel uncomfortable doing certain things or saying certain things or starting conversations that you normally don't.
Yeah.
So with uncomfortability, I like to look at it as I yearn for being uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like if there's a feeling that I get from being uncomfortable, then I'm gonna search for that feeling,
Yeah.
because like jumping on stage or talking in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
N- Not even just talking in front of, but trying to bring out an emotion that is so hard to do, to bring out of somebody,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Just alone, just talking in front of people. It's uncomfortable. And what happened? Oh, just keep it going. Hold on. Anyways, it's so uncomfortable, right? And the concept with that is that I search for that,
Mm-hmm.
and that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling. I like it. Like
Yeah.
you have to like it.
Yeah.
And once you like that uncomfortable feeling, then it makes everything else that much easier.
Yeah.
Even like with saying no.
Yeah.
I think over the past year and a half, I've felt it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I mean, in managerial
Yeah.
positions, you have to say no
A
all
lot
the
of time,
time, and
yeah.
when you're not comfortable with saying no, then you become a pushover,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But over the past year, it was saying no, and you're not saying no because you want to be an ass, but
Yeah.
you're saying no because you're trying to run a business, and you're trying to manage certain things.
Mhm.
But how I look at doing certain things and living through certain situations is you have to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Like, I forgot who it was, but there was this like YouTuber that I used to follow, many years ago, and one of the concepts that I still remember, I think it was like 6, 7 years ago,
Mhm.
what he said was, the key to acing life is to feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
to master uncomfortability. Because
Yeah.
if you can be uncomfortable, you can be thrown into certain situations,
Yeah.
and you can overcome them.
Right.
And I've taken that with me. Sometimes I forget. There's weeks, days, months where I would forget that concept and
Mhm.
go into my little bubble of comfortability,
Yeah.
and just live my life being comfortable. But most of the time, you have to throw yourself into the deep end and feel uncomfortable.
Right. No, I 100% agree. I feel like we're afraid of that, right? We're afraid of not feeling comfortable. We're afraid of those things. So it really does a number on us. You know what I mean? Because we want to know everything. We want to know, and that's just how we're built, and that's how we're wired. Is that we want to have a grasp of everything and so forth, and so that way we're aware, and that we're able to handle it the way that we want to handle it. And I think for me, kind of jumping onto the base of like, this concept of uncomfortability, I think what I do well with is, or I guess I like the feeling of is change. Like
Okay.
I fucking love change. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? A lot of people don't, and I feel like for a long time I tried to be like, no, I don't like change because I like structure and so forth and whatnot. And I'm just like, that I can't work on structure. I can't follow an agenda. I can't follow this
Mm-hmm.
because that's just the way my mind is wired. It literally works. And I recently just really realized that change is what catapults me. Any change in anything in my life. If I change my hairstyle, if I change, the way that I dress, if I change my room up. I've changed my room since I moved into my apartment, which is like what, 2 years. I've changed my room like 10, 15 times. You know what I mean? Just because that change makes me feel like I'm not stuck.
Right.
Some little small ounce of change, whatever it is, you know what I mean? It makes me feel it gets me out of that a feeling of being stuck. And I think that's where I really thrive off of, and being able to be adaptable,
Right.
adaptable to
Yeah, I
any
was gonna say that.
situation.
Yeah, being having your adaptability
Yeah.
at a certain extent.
Yeah.
So with change, is it change that you're looking for? Or is it results of what you're doing?
I think it's because for me, change is a really at the core of it, change is a really scary thing. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because it's the unknown, right? You
Yeah.
don't know how it's gonna play out. You don't know how it's gonna turn out. You don't know how it's gonna look, whatever the case may be. But I feel like I'm looking for um, that result, right? That if I
Yeah.
do change this, something's gonna come out of it, right? Or if I do change this, it's gonna be a little bit different now, or I'm not gonna be stuck in that place or so forth. So I think that's really what it comes down to, and it, like even just like with, like my hair, right? Like getting a different haircut or whatever. It's like, all right, um, I'm really anxious that this is gonna look ugly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really anxious that this isn't gonna go with me,
Yeah.
but I'm like, fuck, I'm already in it, So I guess during that journey or that process of being like, fuck, 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 and then when the barber finally turns me around and hands me the mirror, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit, this shit looks pretty good. You know what I mean? It looks
Yeah.
it looks good on me or whatever. And then I feel like, okay, I did that, so I can do it again now, right? So it's
Yeah.
in my arsenal. It's in my arsenal of hairstyles that I can do, and that kind of goes into any single thing that I change in my life, right? And I can apply that into.
Yeah, that feeling that you feel
Yeah.
that you're sitting in that chair and that anticipation,
Mm-hmm.
that's the feeling that I chase.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that I love.
Yeah.
The feeling of you don't know what the fuck is gonna happen
Right.
next, but doesn't matter because you're Gill, you're already there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're already on the way to doing this certain thing.
And
That's the feeling that I love, and that's the feeling that I chase.
and it's so funny because when you're in that moment of that feeling, you're like, "Fuck, why did I do this shit?"
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Why did I do it?
Yeah.
And it's just like, again,
It's that constant battle that
battle,
you have
yes. And
with
it's just like,
yourself.
well, shit, I'm already here. I gotta
Fuck
see
it.
it out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Either I like my haircut or I shave this shit off. So it's really like it's either or. It's either one or the other.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what comes from it, and that's why I search for change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I think also um I like to challenge myself in that way where I'm just like, what can I do differently now? You know what I mean? What is it else? What else can I put out there? What else can I do? Or whatever the case may be. And that kind of falls into that sense of inhibition, right? Like I'm trying
Yeah.
to challenge that and I'm trying to stem away from that. But yeah, man, like this honestly 2020, what year are we in? 2022.
2022.
I was like, wait a minute. I feel like 2022 has been the year of growth for me. 100%.
All year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Through
Ray.
It all, through it all.
Thanks for sitting down with me and chatting with me and talking to me and
Of course.
sharing your story and your experiences and all that good stuff.
Yes,
Really
thanks.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for stopping
I
by.
enjoyed myself.
Is there anything that you want to share or plug or anything like that?
Not yet. I mean, once I write my book, I'll be back on this podcast. You know
Okay,
what I
of
mean?
course, yes.
Or when I drop my album, whatever case may be. But
Andale.
as of right now, nah, just, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, any final thoughts what you want to say?
I just want to say that whatever moment you're in right now, whatever mindset, it's like it's gonna serve you a purpose somehow, some way, and it's okay to be in that. and just realize that it's not going to always be like that. You know what I mean? There's going to be different changes and so forth and whatnot, and just go with it. Just go with the flow. Just go with it.
Okay.
That's it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So what's the next thing for you? You're doing your training. You're gonna get all buff on me. You're gonna have a beautiful voice like Whitney Houston. What's the next thing that you're gonna jump into?
I think the next big thing that I really want to indulge or jump into and indulge in is opening up my own business.
Nice.
Whatever that is.
Okay.
Just opening up and just really sticking to it.
Perfect. Sweet. Cool. I think that was another one. Everybody, thanks for listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Doesn't matter. Watching on YouTube, thanks for doing that. And that's it. And I'll be back again with another one. Thanks.
Thank you,
Ray, for everything and chilling with me. And that was it. Booyah!
we got it done.
That was it.
That was so good. I love
Sweet. Bye, everybody.